guys, it's Rachel with Mr. Nola's Glitter. Happy Tuesday. I am here today. I'm going to show you step by step how I created this cool brick wall affirmation tumbler. I am going to give you everything you need. You'll be able to download the file for the affirmations, words of affirmations with their offset in case you don't know how to do that, and the brick file that I created. Everything will be in the description below. I will show you how I inked it, how I cut it, how I layered it, how I epoxied it. You'll learn it all. So let's get to it. So we'll start off using a white piece of vinyl. I like to use 631 because it's matte and it takes the ink better. So I am cutting the brick file that you will find in the link below. If you don't want to use the file or purchase the file, you can just make rounded rectangles and just make a bunch of them over and over. It doesn't have to be in a brick pattern so much because you're going to take each one of them up one by one and put them on your cup. These are the color inks that we're going to be using today to ink our bricks. So you will see that I am going to start with the darkest color first and lay them out, and then that way I can blend them together and it doesn't muddy them up too much. I'm going to be using some natural sponges that I got off of Amazon. I like them because they're different textures and they have like different size spongy holes, I guess you would call it. So it gets different textures when you're blobbing it or daubing it on your vinyl. So I put a little bit of alcohol in a cup so that way I could wet my sponge before I started. I also have a little bottle of alcohol in a spray that I spray my sponge before I dip it into the alcohol ink so it doesn't like absorb all of the ink instantly. So I'm just cutting little pieces of this sponge and putting each color in a little paint thing. I'm trying not to make a mess, but we know I am messy, messy, messy. So you'll see me wiping it off the table. I have left my piece of vinyl on my cutting mat that I've taken from my silhouette. You can take it off if you want to. My mat is a little inked now. I don't think it matters to me, but it might matter to you. So if you're wanting to keep your mat not inked, you could take it off the mat. It just held it still for me and I had something to hold on to or whatever. There's no right or wrong way to ink your design. You just get in there and start putting it down the way you feel like it should go. I like to start with the darker colors first, which I probably should have started with the lighter colors, but again, it's either way, whichever way you want to do it. You can see in the background my first cup that I did on a live a couple weeks ago when I was in Utah, which inspired me to do this technique, this tutorial. A lot of people have been doing these brick wall cups all around, and so I tried this and I really liked it, and so I wanted to give it another try when I was able to concentrate. So you'll just see me ink the rest of it, go through all the colors here, and then we'll move on to the next step. For my final step, I'm going to take a spritz of alcohol and just spray lightly over the top of this to give it a little bit more texture. Not too much because you don't want your vinyl to be wet, but I think it gives it a cool little bubble effect. You can skip this if you'd like. It's just a personal preference. So now I'm going to weed off the outer space of our bricks so they are easy to pick up. I'm going to hand place each one of these bricks onto our cup. I am using a black powder coated cup from Stainless Depot. This is a 20 ounce. It was already done black. I had an extra one left over from a project, and I just went ahead and used this. I wouldn't recommend this for combining this cup and this vinyl necessarily, because this cup is kind of rough and this vinyl is not a permanent vinyl. So I ran the risk of my vinyl lifting when I put the epoxy on. I got lucky, but I could definitely tell that it wasn't a strong bond. So if you are heavy with the epoxy or you worry about that, just go ahead and prep a regular cup, like I said, with sandpaper, and then spray it with black matte spray paint, and then go ahead and start on to this step. So here I'm just randomly grabbing different bricks from different spots. I don't really want the pattern to look like it's all cohesive. I just kind of want it to be random. So you're going to notice that your bricks, you're going to have to cut one brick in each row to fit, because of course the cup is not the same size around, because this is a tapered skinny 20. So even if you were working on a cup that was straight, you still might run into the problem where you need to cut it a little bit to fit. So here you're seeing me put it on the cup, and I'm just using my X-Acto knife to kind of create that little beveled curve edge on this last piece. So it just looks like it was part of it. It's just a little bit shorter. So you'll see me do that on every row, because every row is going to have that little short brick. So I'll do this, I'll do that every time I get to the end of each row. Now that we're getting down to the bottom, I am going to cut each one of my bricks in half, a little bit smaller than half, so it'll fill up the bottom. A whole brick wouldn't fit there, so I just cut it, and then I'm making sure that the corners are curved just like the rest of them, so it kind of looks like it was on purpose and it flows all together. I realize I'm off screen here, but I'm really trying to concentrate, so that's why it's a little bit off, but you're going to do it just like the top ones, except you're just going to cut this one smaller with your X-Acto knife. Okay, and here is our cup with all of our bricks laid down. As you can see, all the different colors are going different ways, so it kind of looks really cool. So there's not a distinct pattern here. I tried to keep the light colors different and not in the same spot. So now we're going to move on to epoxy. So I used 15 milliliters of each side for this cup. I really wanted a nice, decent flood coat, and I was kind of worried about my vinyl lifting on this cup. So I went ahead and used my liquid gold. I have a little bit of speed dry left over, and I'm trying to keep it for very important projects. So I really thought that this one is a very important project because I really wanted to make sure that the epoxy set up quickly. So I am mixing my epoxy now. And so you'll see me, I use a Sharpie to mark my spots on my cup because I'm blind as a bat. So this was the first time that I actually used the same cup to measure in. Normally I'm kind of scared to do this because I'm heavy-handed at everything. And so if I have too much of one or too much of the other when you're mixing in the same cup, it's really hard to correct that. But I went ahead and took a gamble, and it paid off. So you're seeing me add part B, and then you'll see me add the part A in the same mixing cup. So I'm kind of saving mixing cups here. Now you'll see me mix using a smaller mixing spoon, and you notice I mix the crap out of my epoxy. I'm not a slow mixer. I don't ever worry about mixing really slow, not introducing bubbles to my epoxy, because our epoxy is made with a degassing agent. So the more I mix the epoxy and the more that I massage it on my cup, the more that the degassing agent works, bringing the bubbles rising to the top, and they easily pop. So I'm going to add just a little bit of our pectoral punch to my top coat. You're going to see I have my wet epoxy stick that I've wiped all my epoxy off of, and it's just wet. So I stick it in just a little bit. You don't need a lot of this, just a little bit goes a long way. I just wanted a little teeny bit of sparkle. I didn't want it to be too overpowering, so that was just perfect. Just a little dab will do you of this. This is a super microfine glitter that is more like an additive to your epoxy, and it gives you that sparkle that you want, but you can't see. So when I first started to epoxy this, I noticed that my turner was going the wrong way. So I like my turner to go one way, and as I'm adding the epoxy, I'm just holding my hand on the cup and letting the cup turn, and it's moving that epoxy over the top of my cup. I was very careful with this, again, because I was using removable vinyl on a cup that wasn't totally smooth. So I was really worried about my vinyl lifting. So I'm trying not to manhandle it too much here. So now that I got all of my epoxy on, I wanted to make sure that my edges were really good. Never forget your bottom. Your bottom is so important here. So what I do to ensure that on black cups that I do not have any bubbles, I will use my little handheld torch. I'm going to show you how quickly I pass over the top of these cups. Too much heat will cause your cups to have fish eyes, or you're going to burn your epoxy. This is not necessarily needed. I have just gotten used to using this with previous epoxies, so it's kind of habit. But when I'm doing black cups or stuff that you could definitely see micro bubbles, I pass this torch very lightly over every side. As you can tell, I'm not letting that torch touch my epoxy very long. Just a quick pass over each side just to ensure that no bubbles are going to be there when I'm done. So if you bought the file that comes with the words of affirmation and the brick, these are the words that come into that file. So these are the way that I've laid them out on my cutting mat, because I'm going to cut all of these words at one time out of different color vinyl. And I'm going to show you a tip and a trick or cheat, or the way that I achieve that. You do not have to use these words. These words spoke to me. I am working on trying to get my head in a better place, and these positive affirmations have really helped me. So these are the ones that I thought were most important to me personally, but you use what you want to use. I'm going to start out by cutting the offset of each of these words in this white vinyl. So in your file that you download from me, you will get the word and then you'll get the offset. So you can cut the offset in whatever color that you wanted, but because my colors were so dark and my bricks were black, I really wanted that white offset on each of these words. So I cut out all the offsets on one page. And then I'm going to cut out the words of affirmation in different colors to match my bricks. After I have my offset cut out, I have laid out my words on my cutting mat in the way that I want them cut out in colors. So I am just measuring each piece of vinyl and laying it on my mat corresponding to what color that I want the words to be that I have already laid out. So this takes a little bit of practice, and to be honest, there's always one that I mess up on, even though I measure and cut and look and double check. So you'll see my oopsie poopsie at the end. I think I ended up messing up 3 words, so I don't have all the words on my cup, and my cup was only a 20 ounce, so I couldn't fit them all. But so if you really want to do this and make it work, measure twice, 3 times, whatever. Don't do me. So I messed up a little bit, but I think this saves a little bit of time. And I think it's very therapeutic to fit all of those colors on one mat and then have it just knocked out at one time. This is where I always say a little prayer to the cutting gods to make sure that everything lines up, and 9 times out of 10 they do not. So I ended up, I think I had my vinyl cut or turned wrong for the top right one, so I miscut on those 2 words up there, but it's no big deal. It's not a big loss. I didn't have room for all of them anyway, so it was still a win for me. So now the fun part, and it is the weeding. So I usually like to take the insides out of my words first, but this white vinyl makes it hard to see the insides first. So I took the outsides off, and then my other ones were finished. So we're going to move on to the colored vinyl. I used both holographic vinyl and glitter vinyl for my words of affirmation. I kind of made them match the colors of the alcohol inks that I used. So I used 6 different colors when I planned out my words. So I did the holographic. We did the holographic ones first because they were easier to see. That glitter vinyl is really hard to weed, and sometimes it's really hard to see what you're doing. But I pushed through it, and I just really love the way that glitter looks when you do an offset with white. It really makes it pop. Now that I have all of my words weeded out, I am going to layer them. So I first start out by putting vinyl over all the colored words, because all the colored words are going to lay over the white ones, and I didn't put them in the same order, so I am putting them all, getting them all under the transfer tape, and then I'm cutting them apart. And then I'll just put a puzzle together and lay each word over the white offset and then cut it out and put it to the side. Most people will use some other sort of like tape or something to line these up. I always just eyeball mine. I've never really had an issue. If it's a little bit off, I think it's okay, because I'm a little bit off too, so it kind of makes sense to me. And like I've said a million times, art is my therapy, so I don't go for perfection. I just go what looks good to me in my eyes or feels good to me. And so this project really felt good to me. Reading these words and putting these words in the universe, that I know that I am all of these things, and sometimes I forget them every single day. This was a really therapeutic project for me. So here is our beautiful epoxied cup, and it is ready for our words of affirmation to be put on here. Now, there is no right or wrong way to put these words on here. I liked the way they looked, all hodgepodged and going every which way. I did not save room for my name on this cup because, I don't know, I just didn't really want to. I really wanted to put as many words as I could on here, so I really didn't think to leave room for my name. Also, what I don't show is I put another word at the bottom, one of the words that I couldn't fit on my cup. I went ahead and added to the bottom, which you'll probably see that when you see this posted in other groups and stuff, you'll be able to see the bottom. So I added another word. So here I am just picking up the words that I want, and I'm really taking the time to feel these words as I'm putting them on my cup, and really soaking in the meaning of what this means and what it means to me. So I hope that you find these words that help you, or if not, you have some other words in mind. again, here she is. This is our finished cup minus the final coat of epoxy. So I have got all my words on here, everything that really means something to me, and these are the words that I try to instill in myself every day. I've asked for some help with some words from some friends, and I really spent some time with these words. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you try this, please post a link. Come to our group in Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, wherever we are. We're everywhere in the universe. We would love to see what you do with this tutorial. If you have any questions, concerns, anything like that, just let us know in the comments below. We try to come back and answer pretty much everything. And I look forward to seeing what you create. Thank you so much for supporting us and for hanging out with me today. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.